The American Federation of Teachers is the premier education organization in Corpus Christi, Texas. We are a family of professionals with state and national affiliations, including the Texas AFT, AFT, and the AFL-CIO. CCAFT represents teachers, librarians, counselors, paraprofessionals, bus drivers, and maintenance workers. Our main concern is the well-being and public education of our children in the Coastal Bend. CCAFT is producing this program to keep our community abreast of educational issues during the 2013 legislative session and to highlight the good news in our local public schools. CCAFT is the only educational employee organization in Corpus Christi with the strength, courage, capacity, and resolve to affect positive change at the local, state, and national levels. For our kids, for them to achieve the American dream in our democratic society. No more excuses. Our children come first, and we are here to do everything we can to ensure that our legislature does right by our kids in 2013. AFT stands for the American Federation of Teachers, but it also stands for all families together. Welcome to the CCAFT Legislative Report. I'd first like to introduce the president of the Corpus Christi American Federation of Teachers, who is a longtime educator. He was in the classroom for about 17 years before becoming president of CCAFT about 4 years ago. This is Mr. Ray McMurray. Hi, Ray.
Thank you, Dr. Vetta. It's going to be a pleasure doing this show with you.
Hi,
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And us getting to co-host this together, I'm very honored and pleased to be here with you. And this is Dr. Nancy Vetta, of course, and she is a classroom teacher of 27 years. She is the president of LULAC number 4444, and she has been a dynamic and strong community active leader for decades in our community. So we're very proud to have you here.
And I'm proud to be a member of the Corpus Christi American Federation of Teachers, right?
You better believe it. And we get to do that honor together. And I'm very pleased to get this opportunity to really talk to the community and educate them about, what our children are doing in CCISD and the outlying areas.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the legislative session. It's 2013. They're just starting the session. Is that right?
That's correct. The 83rd legislative session kicked off yesterday. And of course, in Texas, our legislature meets every other year in odd-numbered years for 140 days.
Well, now that you've mentioned that, I think we have a little clip here on like an overview on the Texas legislature, and it talks about a little bit about bills and how it's made up, that it's a bicameral legislative body.
Let's take a look.
Okay, let's do that. The Texas legislature meets in Austin, Texas at the state capitol every odd-numbered year. The last time they met was in 2011. That's why they're meeting again this year in 2013. They usually meet for 140 calendar day sessions. Those are called the regular sessions, but they can also meet if they have to extend the 140 days to special sessions. Those are about 30 days, but only the governor can call special sessions. Ours is a bicameral government in Texas, two houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives. In the Senate, there are approximately 31 members, and the House of Representatives has 150 members. And from Corpus Christi, our area legislators include Chuy Hinojosa, a Democrat who sits in the Senate, and we have two House of Representatives, Todd Hunter, who's a Republican, and Abel Herrero, a Democrat. We also have, for each house or each chamber, we have the lieutenant governor who presides at all of these meetings. Now, he's elected by the populace. His name is David Dewhurst, and he's a Republican. In the House of Representatives, we have a Speaker of the House who presides over meetings, but he is selected by the actual House members or the elected officials that we elect to the House of Representatives. His name is Joe Strauss. Here's the life of a Texas bill. When somebody wants to make a bill into a law, the first thing that needs to happen is that bills are introduced by any member of the state legislature. They can be from the Senate or the House of Representatives. It doesn't matter. The first thing that happens is bills are assigned to committees. And then chairmen in both the House and the Senate, they set hearings and schedule votes. And committees must vote to advance the bill to the floor. Finally, other committees or the leader of the chambers then decide when and if to ever schedule the floor votes. So the life of a Texas bill has to be either go through the Senate or the House of Representatives to become an active bill. A Texas bill has to first go to the Senate and then or the House of Representatives or vice versa, and then it continues on to the governor of the state of Texas, who happens to be Rick Perry. Now, Rick Perry has a couple of options. He may either approve the bill or veto a bill. Now, if he approves the bill, then it becomes law in the state of Texas. Well, that was a great slideshow. Don't you agree, Ray?
Oh man, that was a history lesson.
I think we're going to go ahead and put it on YouTube along with our show to see how
nice.
So we can keep everybody abreast of what's going on, and
Very nice.
so everybody can understand. It's educational and informational.
Well,
right?
and it's about our kids. When our parents take our kids to the school every day, they trust that they're dropping off their most precious commodity. And that's a public investment. They trust that our schools are going to successfully deliver education to them, safety to them, and that's what really we're about. AFT, yes, we're the American Federation of Teachers, but our theme here is all families together. And in the legislative session, we're going to be making laws that affect our children, our educators, and our families. And how do we do that successfully?
Well, I think that last time the legislative session met, when was that, in 2011?
In 2011.
I was just floored at some of the decisions made regarding funding and some of the other things that they did to public education. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, this is going to be an important time, because over the next 140 days in the 2013 legislative session, we have to be looking forward, but we also have to understand what we're inheriting. You know, what happened in 2011?
I'd like to know what happened.
Well, for the first time in history, in modern history in Texas, since World War II, this was the only time that the legislature did not at least increase funding for projected enrollment growth, which means we're adding 160,000 new students since 2011.
But they say they maintained,
with
though.
$5.4 billion.
So how can you maintain if we have more students in the classroom? Doesn't that decrease the funding?
Well, it's called smoke and mirrors.
I see.
Okay, but let's be honest with the viewers. $5.4 billion with a B was taken out. $4 billion out of the general revenue and $1.4 billion in aids, which a lot of people don't realize. The parents understand that full-day kindergarten in Texas is gone. We're one of the few states left in the country that is not funding full-day kindergarten. That's one of the programs that we lost.
Remarkable. And you
So-
know, research shows that kindergarten programs and pre-kinder programs are very effective in helping a student achieve what they need to achieve and to stay ahead of
Right.
the market and of what they need to do in order to be successful in school and in their careers in the future.
The research on early education is profound and very clear. And I do want to give credit to Dr. Elliff, because he has been committed in the last 2 years to maintaining kindergarten full day in our Title I schools. And that's something he has made sure that we've been able to continue. So while the Texas legislature was defunding kindergarten, CCISD has been able to find a way to sustain that. But the effects have really been devastating. I mean, we also have had teacher layoffs by the tens of thousands across Houston, Dallas. I mean, we've seen not just teachers, but paraprofessionals, bus drivers. And you know, our classes are maximum capacity. Our class size is expanding. They're busting the 22-to-1 class size limit, and legally they kept it, but they created waivers. So people don't realize that thousands of waivers have been applied for across the state because of the loss of funding, and where our class size in K through 4, it continues to expand. And really, we have to look at supervision levels. Are our schools as safe as they could be?
That's a good, you know, as a classroom teacher, I've seen the effects of this 2011 legislature and how it's impacted the kids and how our classes have grown, how
Right.
we have less technology that we can access as a result of these devastating cuts in 2011.
Right. So we have to be honest about what we're inheriting. We're inheriting a situation where we have to restore funding. That ought to be priority number one.
But Ray, Governor Perry today, as we tape this program today, said, "I'm not guaranteeing that we're going to refund what we didn't fund last time." What does that mean? Where's he coming from?
Well, he obviously wants to run for president again, and he wants to go on a slash and burn tax cut agenda, but he's putting the children of Texas at risk. And we have heard some from other Republicans in the last couple of days. Speaker of the House Joe Strauss has come out with a strong statement for restoring funding. And so I think even within the Republican Party, we are seeing a little bit of a we don't know what direction we're going to go yet, but I think that has to be priority number one. I mean, how are we going to move forward with 160,000 new students from 2011? And we know now that disadvantaged students and Hispanics are now the majority in Texas. Why is this funding being taken away now? But how are we going to move forward adequately and serve the needs of our students with this kind of loss in funding? Restoring funding has to be the number one priority.
Okay, so CCAFT and the Texas American Federation of Teachers stance is that we not only need to refund what we lost, but we have to increase the funding for education as well, right? So there's giving us back what they didn't give us in 2011 and then increasing funding in 2013. Is that what I'm
Well, I mean, we would like to at least see the money put back. That's a starting point.
Okay.
You know, restoring the $5.4 billion, and there will be some other games played in the legislature. I've already heard a couple of legislators say, well, the courts are having to decide the constitutionality of school finance, so we're not going to do anything. We're just going to put it on the burner and wait until the session's over until we get further clarification from the courts. But that's just kicking the can down the road. Our kids can't wait. That's not the American Federation of Teachers and Linda Bridges and Texas AFT, that's not going to be a sufficient response.
It's unacceptable.
Right. I mean, we certainly agree with that. And so restoring the funding from the last session is going to be important. And you remember how we got here. In 2006, Governor Perry cut property taxes by $14 billion, which is on the surface a good thing. But he said he was going to make up for it by reforming the franchise business tax, which brought in $9 billion only. And so it wasn't an offset. And it's left us with a structural deficit. Every year we're running $5 billion deficits.
Wow.
And so that's where we find ourselves in this situation. Now the good thing is that the Texas economy with Eagle Ford Shale, there's some new revenue.
Aren't we one of the richest states, if not the richest state in the nation right now?
We're doing well economically, but when it comes to per pupil funding, we're at the very bottom of the list.
And you know why that doesn't make sense, Ray? Because I think there's a direct relevance to economic development and economic well-being to education. I mean, they're both relevant. I think Steve Murdoch came to Corpus Christi a few years ago and said, you know, if we don't educate our children, we're going to become a third world country. And it was kind of odd that in 2011, the politicos ignored that and went ahead and cut funding anyway. I say, how dare they?
Well, it shouldn't have happened. And you know, but that's the importance of this session. I mean, we're doing this show and we're talking to the people of Corpus Christi and the surrounding area to educate them about how really important the legislative session is, and we have a chance to get it right. And we're going to put the politicians to the test this time.
I think that's wonderful, Ray. And you know, the thing about CCAFT is that we're just not a local organization, right? We have the state and national affiliates. So even though you and I may not, I may be in the classroom and you may be tending to business here in Corpus Christi with the local AFT, we have people who are full-time lobbyists in Austin that are helping with this, our political agenda.
Right, AFT, Texas, and the AFL-CIO, right across the street from the Capitol is the AFL-CIO building.
I've been there. It's a nice
we
place.
are around the clock, our lobbyists. We have paid folks that are there to defend the children, defend the interest of public education, preserve that funding, and make sure that our employees are protected in the schools. So, you know, that's the good part that people don't understand, is that the American Federation of Teachers as a national and state organization is very, very capable of being there for the employees and for the kids.
And we're going to be there in 2013 for sure. I see that you have a brochure here that is the Texas AFT legislative agenda for 2013. And then there it has a lot of great information about how to call legislators directly and how to speak your mind. And we welcome everyone to call our elected officials. Who are the three that we have here? Senator Chuy Hinojosa, right, Ray?
Correct. Senator Chuy Hinojosa out of the Valley is our senator and represents this region. And then Todd Hunter is our state representative. And so is Abel Heredo, newly elected. And I think as we look at what happened last session, we ought to go ahead and say congratulations to Abel Heredo for getting reelected. And this is Abel Heredo set out the last term, but when he did serve in the Texas House, he had a 100% voting record.
And it's my understanding, and it's my understanding from an article I read in the Caller Times is that he's putting education first.
Exactly.
He's putting our children first, and we're working closely with Abel Heredo to ensure that at least from this area, we support him and his efforts to put children first.
Well, Abel not only is smart, you know, obviously he's an intelligent guy. He's an attorney. He understands the big picture. But he's got 5 children, so he's a family guy. But the main thing is, if you go to Austin, if you went to the Capitol, Abel's the last guy at 11 o'clock midnight to leave those committee meetings. I mean, this is a very, very dedicated legislator. We're very lucky to have somebody that understands the issues, that's as smart as Abel Heredo, that devotes as much time and energy to his job as Abel Heredo does, and is willing to put public education, you know, on the forefront.
I remember just a short anecdote when got back to Corpus Christi in about 2001, I met Abel Herrero, our new mayor, Nelda Martinez,
Right.
and Larry Elizondo at this function where we were trying to get together to do something great for the community, for the Corpus Christi. And now look at them all. They're, Nelda Martinez is the first Latina mayor of Corpus
Right.
Christi, and then Abel Herrero is back in the
Texas
House. And Larry Elizondo, well, he did a lot of work on the city council and the Corpus Christi Independent School District School Board. So
Right.
it's just great things,
You
great
bet.
people.
But I wanted to reiterate this point that the Texas Constitution mandates that Texas adequately fund public education. And a debate can be made, and in the last session that didn't happen. And so we're bringing forward to the community and to Corpus Christi the notion that in this legislative session, people should be informed, we should be aware, we should get involved, and we should know that we have a chance to get it right.
Well, Ray, my question is, do we have enough money in state coffers to be able to fund education adequately? Didn't we just get a report from the comptroller?
Like some of my students used to do? The answer is a resounding yes. If you look at the rainy day fund, if you look at the surplus and revenue that we have to start the session coming in, the money's there. It's a matter of, do we have the political will? Do we have the fortitude? And are we going to be honest enough and say, you know what, we're going to invest in our future. We're going to invest in our kids, and we're going to do it the right way. So there's no doubt. I mean, those that hide behind this issue now, there's no money in this session, they need to come forth with, show us the books, because we know that's not true.
Yeah, the state of Texas is economically sound right now, and there's
Right.
no question about that. So, Ray, what are some of the issues other than funding education that we need to be looking for as the legislature progresses?
Well, in this next session, one of the big issues I think that we're going to take a look at that's already out there that they've tried before, but David Dewhurst, the lieutenant governor, held a
He's from the
press
Senate.
conference.
He's from the Senate, and he is elected by the people to serve
Exactly.
as the speaker, as the lieutenant governor.
And he and Dan Patrick, now Dan Patrick's from Houston, and he is now the new chair of the Senate Education Committee.
Okay.
Well, Dan Patrick got together with Mr. Dewhurst, and they held a press conference in December. And there was a lot of hoopla and media around this press conference, because what they're already doing is they're rolling out this idea that vouchers is good for kids and good for the state of Texas.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
And really the vouchers is we know what it is. It's a diversion of public money to private schools and to private education. We're taking money out of our schools if we go the voucher route. But they're renaming it. If you kind of put a nice new little package on it and call it something different, then maybe they can get the public to swallow the pill. And what they're calling it is a tuition tax credit.
Okay. So vouchers, tuition tax credit, they're both the same thing.
That's right. When the politicians this session start talking about a tuition tax credit for parents, it sounds appealing, but we need to pull the layer back and really understand what we're looking at here. And this is a voucher. A voucher, a rose by any other name is still a rose. And this is a voucher. This is a backhanded attempt to defund our public schools. It's an attempt to divert public dollars, which are targeted for our kids, in carrying out that mission of equality of opportunity, social mobility, everybody having an opportunity to learn.
But it's quite the opposite. I remember when I was working in San Antonio, and I was working in the Edgewood Independent School District as a representative for another organization. There were privatized vouchers there. This guy named Lininger came in, and he said, "I'm going to give all of you money so you can go to your own schools." And so what happened was, in this very poverty-stricken school district, we had kids going into private schools that were bursting at the seams because they couldn't handle so many kids.
Right.
And then we had some makeshift schools. And I remember distinctly going into this room, this school that was used to be a bar, and you could still smell the stench of the beer and the cigarettes, and there were folding chairs there, and one computer for like 30 or 40 kids that were attending this school. I mean, there are no regulations for some of these schools. Is that right, Ray?
That's public money. And so when we just release this public money to go shop and buy a school of your choice, well, there has to be some accountability standards.
Sounds to me like it's a scheme for some people to make money and put some money in their pockets. It's certainly not for educators, and certainly not for the students in Texas.
Well, we think that it is an effort to privatize. It's a privatization effort. It's another way to take public money and privatize these for-profit schools. But I can tell you, let's talk about the research though. And this is important.
Okay.
All right, at the University of Arkansas, Patrick Wolf, a PhD, is probably one of the leading researchers on vouchers in the country. And he started off as a voucher advocate. Okay.
Okay.
And he has been doing research in Milwaukee, which was one of the first cities in the 90s to experiment with releasing these public dollars for vouchers and tax credit tuition. He has done research in Washington, D.C., in Ohio, in Wisconsin, and overwhelmingly the research demonstrates that there is, there's no substantiated evidence to see that vouchers results in student achievement. Okay, there's no higher student achievement. If anything, his research has shown the opposite, that public school children begin by the third year to actually outperform the voucher schools, those students that are using their vouchers. So this idea that student achievement, that somehow if you give me my voucher, whether it's a $4,000 voucher or $5,000, let me go shop for a school, that somehow that's automatically going to translate into your child learning more, the research is just not there.
Now, Ray, though, we've talked about how it's going to affect student achievement and the vouchers, that is. How much do vouchers cost?
Well, that's where there's also some misunderstanding. I mean,
Okay.
it's going to be sold that a voucher is based on average per pupil funding.
Right,
And that
right.
the voucher tends to come in a little bit under what an average per pupil funding is in the state of Texas. But let's be honest, there are no average kids. I mean, students don't come average. Every one of them is a little bit different, and
They're individuals.
they're individuals.
Yes.
And that's the
Absolutely.
deal. They're very much individualized, and what we tend to see happen is that those that take advantage of the vouchers are not your high-cost students. So, for example, in Wisconsin, when we looked at the students there that took the vouchers, there were 21,000 students that took vouchers.
Yeah.
Among those students, only 1.5 were special ed. Back at the regular public school, 19% of the student population was special education. So your students with special needs are still left in the public schools that tend to be higher cost per pupil funding. So now you have all this money being taken out of the public school and all your high cost students being left to educate, which drives up the cost of public education. Now the state of Texas is really going to have to administer a public scheme and a private scheme. And so the bureaucracy, what we've also seen is long-term bureaucracy goes up, because now you've got to find out, okay, how many of those kids are really going to school in the private sector? How many of these are really, when you do try to monitor the situation, because it is public dollars after all, what we see is that there's an explosion of bureaucracy. And the state, in the end, will try to manage a public system and a private system.
What a mess.
Which becomes a duplicative, the duplication in terms of work and responsibility. One of the other things we've seen, and this is research by accounting firms that have gone all over the country and done this research, that the loss of students is not just in one school. It's equal and it's spread out across the whole district. So if you may lose 5 here, 10 there, 17 over here, all your fixed costs are still the same. You're not allowed to just, you've lost, maybe so many so you can just close this school down. It doesn't work that way. And so what we've seen is that it does not lower the total operating cost to perform your public school system. So the cost of the public school system, essentially in terms of fixed cost, stays the same, and your overall operating expenses are very much the same. And so it's a complex web where bureaucratic cost actually goes up. And so to tell the taxpayer that somehow vouchers is going to save the state money, it just doesn't seem to be true.
Yeah, well, I think that as far as I'm concerned, I'm certainly going to confront in a very positive way our legislators and say, no, no, no to vouchers. Absolutely not.
Right.
I don't believe in them. I think they're a travesty. Ray, we've talked a lot about the legislative session today. We've talked about the 2011 legislative session and the damage that the politicos caused, and we also talked about the 2013 legislative session. But how can people get involved with this? What can we do to make things better for our children?
Activism. And
Okay, what does that look like?
One of the things about that we're explaining to the community, a lot of people don't know about AFT, the American Federation of Teachers, but we are presenting this also as all families together. That the only way that we're going to make public education successful is if we partner together, protecting our children and our families and funding our schools. And one of the ways to do it is to get involved. And how do we partner together? What does that look like?
Yeah.
And I can tell you that on March 11th, which is the first Monday of spring break, when that week that CCISD is off, starting March 11th, on that Monday, we're going to have 3 charter buses, and we already have them reserved. And we have in Austin, at the Capitol, what's called Lobby Day. And we want to invite the community to attend and ride with us for a one-day trip. We're probably going to meet at the Carroll High School parking lot.
Sounds good to me.
It'll be kind of early, around 5:30 in the morning, and we'll load up on the bus, and we're going to drive to Austin, Texas, park at the Capitol. We have meetings that day with our legislative delegation, Mr. Hunter and Abel and Chewy, and they actually have rooms reserved for us inside the Capitol where you get to talk one-on-one. We get to actually, this is where we get to tell our story. And the story is much stronger when we're shoulder to shoulder with educators and community members and parents together. And so it's a free trip. There's no cost. Texas AFT will buy lunch and we'll eat on the lawn of the Capitol, on the grounds of the Capitol that afternoon. There's a rally on the steps of the Capitol on March 11th. And we had 4,000 AFT folks show up 2 years ago. Okay. We want to hit 6,000 this year.
Wow.
We want to hit 6,000. And the purpose...
We can do it. We can do it.
Because this whole session is about opportunity. It's what's the opportunity to restore the funding? What is the opportunity to put pre-K back in place? What is the opportunity to put back in the classrooms the tens of thousands of employees that got laid off that have left these classes too big?
And what we're going to talk about in our next show is how can we get rid of the high-stakes standardized testing that causes our children so much pain and tension and stress. You know, that's what we're going to talk about next time. And if you want to learn more about our lobby day and other things that we've talked about on the program today, you can find us on Facebook. We're the Corpus Christi American Federation of Teachers on Facebook. And you can also go to our website.
On our website, www.CCAFT, which stands for Corpus Christi American Federation of Teachers.org, CCAFT.org. There's a way to register for Lobby Day.
Okay.
And it's very easy.
Okay, they have to fill out the form?
Yeah, it's an electronic page, and all you do is put in your name and address and phone number and some contact information so we can send you, details about the trip. But you'll be registered. You'll get a reserved seat.
How much will it cost for people to go on this trip?
Zero.
Well,
whatever they want to buy as souvenirs at the Capitol, but we're paying for their seat. So the gas there and back is a free ride for those attending with us. Lunch is free for you that day at the Capitol, and then coming back, we are going to stop at the Outlet Mall for 1 hour because people like to get out for a little bit. But we will be coming back that night, probably around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. We should be back before 10. But this is a great opportunity for the community to speak up. And our legislators, when we get off that bus and get into those meeting rooms with them, this is really the opportunity to share our message. And,
that's right.
And so we want to invite the community to be a part of that. So we have our Facebook page. We have our website, www.ccaft.org.
Can they call us?
Of course they can.
Okay.
Yeah, our office number is 855-0482. And you're welcome to call our office. If you'd like anybody from our office to come speak to your group, we certainly can present on the legislative session to your organization, and whether it's education or a variety of labor issues. We feel like we can do that.
Yes, and the Texas Federation of Teachers has a hotline too, and I think they can find out more about that on the Texas Federation of Teachers website.
That's a great tip, Nancy. If you go to www.texasaft.org, you can go to the state website, and there is what's called the legislative hotline, and it's very easy to register for, and it's just a one-page synopsis. Every day you will get an email of the latest and greatest information going on in the legislature for education.
Yeah, and it also gives you an idea of when you should take action. Should we call our congressmen or our representatives so that they can vote the right way for our children, right?
Right. They have online petitions. There's lots of interactive ways. They'll present phone numbers and websites and online petitions. That Texas AFT hotline is one of the, it's easy to read. It's put in terms that, everybody can understand. And it's a proactive piece that really engages the community. So that if you can sign up for the legislative hotline on the Texas AFT website, I really recommend that for the session.
Great, Ray. Well, thank you for being with us today. We hope that this program has been both informative and educational. We'll see you next month, and we'll give you even more information so that you can make your own decisions about what the best thing is for our children in the Coastal Bend. Thank you. And thank you, Ray.
Hey, thank you very much, and thank you. We really appreciate it.